Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Christina, this is Christina. She is the YWCA Family Housing Center Director. You're the Director of Housing at the Family House or at
Yes.
the Y. You do so many things and you're such a great partner with Family Promise, and we really appreciate you and everything you do. And we're excited to learn from you today. So you're going to talk about boundaries and confidentiality. You're like,
Thank you
I'm going
for
to turn.
having me here tonight and being a part of the stabilization program. I'm just watching from the peripheral and being a part of the meetings. I'm very, very excited for the program. So I will just get right into the meat of it. For me, boundaries and confidentiality are really tied really closely together. That personal, professional, and we'll talk a little bit about both and how having really good personal boundaries can also lend itself to building really strong professional boundaries, and just knowing what they are for yourself. So just some strategies for maintaining professional boundaries. I just really liked this model. I'm going to jump right to it. I'm not going to read it line by line, but I will just hit on some of the points and kind of just talk about kind of the why or a little bit of the how. And if you have questions, please just fire away. Establishing clear roles and responsibilities. So you really do this early on within your first meeting, and that introduction with your person, your individual, your client, your family, who you are. You're setting expectations, and those expectations are for you to set. And that just really defining what your role is one of the key things here. The family, the individual, your client, they're not going to really know what your role is unless you tell them and you set those boundaries. I like to lean into company policies quite a bit as a guideline, and also I can also use it as an excuse. I'm sorry, I can't do that. My company doesn't allow that. That's not within the scope of what I'm permitted to do. However, let me help you find a different way. And just really clearly communicating that. And for me, I also set the boundary of, if I see you in the grocery store, I'm not going to approach you. I'm not going to initiate contact. If you want to say hi, I'll wave and smile and hi and carry on, right? I might be with my family. It's just, and then there's that confidentiality piece, right? My littles might be asking, oh, how do you know that person? And, I know them from work is my general answer. It does happen. Might happen at church, right? Might end up sitting next to someone that you know very well, and now they're your client. That might be a conversation for you to have with whomever you connect with, your coordinator. Like that might be a conflict of interest for you in your personal boundaries. Consent forms, written agreements, releases of information. A release of information allows you, are there any man advocates in here as well? I didn't know if there was some crossover. And I asked that because you may be working with a family just coming out of FHC, and you might want to have a little bit of information from their case manager that was just working with them in FHC. Hopefully there's a meeting before they exit, right? And there's already a match. But if there isn't, right, they already have that relationship, there's information. They can share that information with you with a release of information. You always allow your person to fill that out. You can guide them with, like, well, what goes here? Who do you want to have the information? They write that out. Why? They might ask, well, why? So I can communicate with your case manager about some of your needs and goals. that's all you're gonna get. And you reassure them, that's all I'm gonna ask and that's all I'm gonna get. It's also building trust and rapport. I don't really like the word best practice, but 60 days for a release of information is what we do. And then we just renew it and revisit. I tell people you can revoke this at any time. It has to be in writing to make it official, but if you tell me verbally, I don't want you talking to Kristina anymore, I'm done. I will honor that. And then I make a case note that that person's redacted their release of information. So, I mean, it really builds trust in that professional relationship. And then there's no misunderstandings either when we have clear communication about our roles and what we can and can't do. Communication guidelines. Oh, this is a really, really important one for me. My personal and professional boundary is I do not give clients my personal cell phone number, nor do I give them my address. By happenstance, people have found out where I have lived, and so I have made the mistake of giving people my phone number thinking we have a different relationship. They're going to honor my boundary. It doesn't happen. You get phone calls at 3 a.m. Even with Google Voice, with your number blocked, the phone is still buzzing. I answer phone calls and I return calls during my normal office hours. That's my boundary. Your office hours and hours of working with people may be a little different. Just really check in with how you're going to set that up. And then that way it also sets the boundary that you're not going to answer the phone except for times when you're going to be working. And also letting them know, like, I think my voicemail says like 24 or 48 hours or something like that. And just, giving that time so they don't expect an immediate, I just left you a message 5 minutes ago and why are you not calling me back? You may have to revisit that a few times with someone, but holding that, they will understand and respect it. Sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve with some people who just have a lot of needs and everything is a crisis right then. Professional language, I mean, we don't really need to talk about that a whole lot.
You think you're civilized.
Yes. Well, I do. I do. So, even if your client is, using all kinds of colorful words, I personally just try to refrain from modeling that and then just I make up words. And I will share them later. Protecting confidentiality. And I liked this word fundamental. This is so key. And it goes beyond sharing things with your partner at home or dropping a name. And you may think the door is shut when you're in the congregation or wherever, your offices are and you meet, but there may be someone in the hallway, right, that overhears that conversation and confidentiality has been breached, trust has been breached. I don't confirm or deny. I have people through cross programs, they end up living next to each other and they like to spill the tea. We're here to talk about your goals and just remind them why we're meeting. This meeting is about them. And stay out of the weeds with other folks, right? And that can be hard when they have neighbor issues and they want to share it with you. Provide them avenues, right? So it sounds like you're having an issue with your neighbor. Have you tried communicating with them? Have you communicated with your landlord, right? Keep it on that professional level so you're not getting into that conversation about the neighbor when you should be, working on goals and, right, you're there for a purpose. Another one, and I I bring this up. So when you're going into a home, when I do home visits, if I'm going to do a home visit, my clear expectation, and I do not budge on this. No visitors. So if your mom shows up 5 minutes before I'm scheduled to be there and I arrive and your mom's visiting, I'm going to cordially, oh, it looks like you have company. I have you on my calendar, our next visit. I'll see you then. Or can we touch base later? Reschedule. That's for safety as well. A lot of the families live a lot differently than you or I may, and some are survivors, and sometimes an abuser finds their victim, and you just never know who's in the house. If it's not the immediate family that you are assigned to work with, I do not stay in the home for my own safety. If I know that I'm working with someone in active substance misuse and they're a survivor, or either or, I do let someone know where I'm going. It's safety. My previous jobs, someone always knew where I was. I was with clients. But it's just something that I do. I've done it with Jen. I did it with my previous supervisor, Melissa. Hey, I'm going to do a home visit with so-and-so. I'm moving now. I'll be back. I'm expecting back at 3:30. Do I think anything's going to happen? No. But it's just my safety, right? So that is something to consider. Keeping everything secure is another piece of confidentiality, locking up files, not leaving things in the open, trying to not leave things on a printer or a fax, retrieving them immediately, being really careful how you're communicating through email. I will use initials, first and last name, mutual client at the top if I'm communicating with a member of a different agency, if you're communicating with one of our case managers or staff. And then we can get into the weeds and, talk on the phone and whatnot, but it's not secure. That's, I guess, my point right there. Yeah, and just always making sure you have that informed consent before you're sharing information with any other agency. Managing your physical boundaries. So I have to be honest, I'm not always the best at this. I do not hug male or male identifying people. It's a handshake. It might be a side hug if you're an individual with a disability and you're on my caseload, but that's it, a fist bump. That's professional and, personal boundary. Depending on the female identifying client and what their emotional needs are, sometimes a hug is in order. I worked with a mom last year that lost her son to cancer. He passed on a Saturday and she came and saw me on Monday. Yes, I hugged her. And so that's a nuance. If you're not comfortable hugging people, that's your boundary. You don't have to hug people. It's a handshake. And it also, being aware of your space, always having an exit. You never want to have someone between you and the door. You will get to know families and you'll feel safe and it'll be a different thing. But as you're getting to know people and in their homes, just be aware of your surroundings and just be mindful of what else is going on. I'm not trying to scare you, but we are working with people and it's organic and anything can happen around you. You just want to be aware. In your professional space, if you're meeting with people in the church or at your congregations, if you have office spaces, Just making sure you're not leaving anything out as well. Making sure you, I guess, for me, I know certain folks, I'm not bringing all 7 of their children into my office. My office can't handle that. It's small. I know that. I'm going to manage that by getting a bigger conference room. I'm going to have toys and I'm going to have snacks. Right? So I can work with mom while the kids are occupied. Just knowing and managing that. If you know you're going into a home, I don't know if you're in double up or not. With a mom with 7 children, all under the age of 12, maybe it might work if 2 people came over and lent mom a hand. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but knowing that ahead of time and preparing yourself, how much work am I going to actually get done? How can I manage this? The physical space of a 2-bedroom apartment. So, avoiding dual relationships. So you are avoiding providing any service to friends, family. If you know somebody and they just got assigned to you, you want to ask for a different family. It just gets messy. It really does. The boundary lines get blurred and you're a friend. And then when you have to set a professional boundary, it's very personal to that other person, even if you can wear 2 hats. It makes it hard and challenging to get goals accomplished and to make headway with that family, that individual. Maintaining emotional boundaries, it's really, and it talks here about self-reflecting on interactions. The work that we all do is very triggering, right? It can be very emotionally taxing. And so if I feel triggered by something, I sit with it for a while and ask myself why. I'm not being objective. And I'm allowing how I feel about something or how someone has made me feel disrupt that balance that I have with not being too emotionally involved and making decisions based on my heart and not what is the best decision. Or I guess that makes sense. Because we are working with people, we're working with children, we're working with families. And so I meet everyone that I work with unconditional positive regard, no judgment. You will encounter different parenting styles if any of y'all were parents, grandparents. You will hear things, see things, smell things. Walk into someone's home and ask yourself, is this, wow, different building blocks and different skill sets. That's not why I'm there, right? I might have to work with someone I don't like. That's a big one, right? It happens. You may have someone very challenging, very difficult to work with. You do it anyway, right? I do anyway, because I'm here to do a job and I'm going to treat that person with the same dignity and respect that I would anyone else. And usually, if I go a little deeper, I can find something that I can glob onto and like about that person. And that's a Kristina issue, not that person's issue, and I'm not going to make it their issue. I just look at it. This person needs to be housed. That's how I get it. They need housing. They deserve housing. They deserve to stay in their housing and have the supports that they need. So I tend to look at it more of like, oh wow, it looks like you might need a third hand here. How can I help you? Finding out what their goals are. How did they grow up? Maybe no one ever showed them how to do a dish. They don't know how to do dishes. they don't have systems. This might be their first home ever, and they're 32. And they grew up homeless. And so building those skills, it does take time, but it's so worth it because you're empowering them. And I'm going on a tangent, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But that's like, so, I mean, it is hard and difficult work. And so when I am emotionally challenged, not only do I walk home every day, I check in with my supervisor, I debrief with folks if I really need to. I do what I need to do to take care of myself and get re-centered. Because yeah, I have to. I mean, or I can't do this work. That's just how I feel, right? And it talks about supervision. I don't use that word, I call it one-on-one. I tend to supervise younger folks, and so supervision to them has a whole different meaning. It's really a check-in. And you know, you're as a supervisor, I'm asking, how are you doing? How are things going? What's going well? What's not going well? What questions do you have? I need them to be okay to do this work too, right? And they're also people. And then, you know, professional support, ongoing education, training opportunities. If you are doing some self-reflection, you're like, for me, you know, it's like, gosh, I need to learn how to regulate myself better. I signed up for training. I'm doing a training once a month on just that. And so, yeah, that's a really good way of checking in with each other, taking care of one another and knowing one another well enough to know when someone's like off or just had a really difficult interaction with someone, and trying to provide that space for them. One more thing, and then I'll leave you.
Well, and then I wonder if people have questions, if you're okay.
So two more things, handling gifts and like social invitations. I personally, it's a hard no on both. Under $1, under $5, okay. You know, I've had clients in my previous job come back from vacation and bring me a little keychain from Idaho. I just asked my supervisor if I could keep it. But, and it's definitely, you know, it's a boundary. They don't have resources to be giving gifts. And then it's also misconstrued, well, you took a gift from me, we're friends, right? And it's just an ethical, it gets really into the mud, and I would never want someone to question my integrity. So I just don't. I don't borrow anything. I don't, yes, nope. I document everything. Everything that's documented. Yeah.
Was good.
Yeah.
Thank you.